what I wanted to go through is something that we get a lot of, something that you use every day as a carrier, but it's also going to give drivers some perspective on how they're actually qualified after they submit an application with a carrier. I'm going to try to do this in under 5 minutes, and we'll see how fast I can talk. Not an auctioneer, but let's roll through it. All right, so where I usually start is I work a lot with a company called Emerge Careers, who is a great organization, nonprofit. Their goal is to get incarcerated individuals out of incarceration, released, complete ELDT, and put them in a job placement with appropriate carriers that will hire them based on their circumstance or their history or whatever. Now, with that said, I recently went through basically an MVR review process with them to basically determine who would be the best and most likely successful candidates. And essentially, that's what you're doing as a carrier. You're looking for the best available applicants, and you're making sure that they're qualified based on their history, both from a VOE perspective, former employer, which is giving you that performance-based insight, but you're also getting the legal-based insight, which is coming from the MVR, the Clearinghouse, the PSP. You should have a big picture of who it is you're hiring and should you even hire them. Now, this is my driver page for Clearinghouse. You see, I've never had any violations. I know some of you have met me, been like, I don't know about this, but never been in here. So come in here, you can see all the queries that I've had run on me. And generally, we'll run these with clients or potential clients just to kind of illustrate how this system works and to make sure their system is set up properly. So have I ever worked for these companies? In general, most likely not. But in some cases, they were clients. So what you really want to look for with the Clearinghouse when you run it, your screen will look like this piece as a carrier. The big piece you're looking for here is driver not prohibited. And that's really all you're looking for here. Now, with that said, if you happen to get a prohibited driver, let's jump in here. This is what they will look like. Now, this is a 10th Street screen. In the past, I've used 10th Street a lot, especially from an integrated aspect on enterprise carriers that I manage. So one of the cool things about some of these systems, especially 10th Street, is you'll get this notice first here that's going to say, hey, you've ran this through the integration process and it's return prohibited. You need to go in there and figure out, run your full query, get your consent for that, if they're going to provide it, and then run it and see what's up. So what you're going to get here is all of this information. Once they give you consent, you'll see the full profile and everything from what they tested positive for, when they tested positive, what kind of test they tested positive on, and what they tested positive for, and who actually entered that data and when. And also who they were the employee of or potential employee of. So that's ultimately what your return to duty and prohibited profile is going to look like when you get it back. Now, I've had some of these that had multiple prohibiteds in the past. They completed return to duty testing and SAP, and they were back to work in a not prohibited status. So I start with Clearinghouse because there's no point in moving to MVR and PSP and all the time and money you're going to waste reviewing other things if they come back prohibited because you can't hire them anyway. So moving past Clearinghouse, we're going to jump to this piece. Now, we're going to initially go to MVRs. Things that you want to look for on an MVR, I just ran this today. This is for me. You want to make sure that it is the person that you are looking for, because I have seen in these integrated instances between DMVs and third-party vendors like HireRight or Checker or Applicant 360 or whoever, these things will come back with another person's license, another person's date of birth, but another person's name. So make sure that you do have the right person, right license, etc. What you're looking for on these is pretty simple. Are they licensed to operate a commercial vehicle? What does their score look like? Basically, do they have any violations? Do they have any accidents? How extensive is that history? But then you also want to make sure that you check the expiration date. You don't want it to be expired tomorrow. And then the second piece of this is making sure that they have all the right endorsements, the right type of license, and then ultimately that they have no restrictions on their license. That could be glasses, that could be manual transmission restrictions, that could be air brake restrictions, etc. You want to make sure that they don't have any of those and that they're licensed and endorsed properly for whatever it is that they're going to carry. Now, another thing you want to check here is if you're a hazmat carrier or tanker, that you'll see here my license actually expires in 2028, but my hazmat endorsement expires in 2025. I have to make sure that I go back and get my fingerprints done and do my retest for hazmat to re-up my hazmat endorsement because it will expire before my license. Make sure that you're tracking that, especially if they're a hazmat driver for you. You'll see all of my history. You're looking for accidents, infractions, etc. Now, what's the difference between what I just went through and this? Well, from a compliance standpoint, clearinghouse is required. You can't be in a prohibited status. MVRs are required at the time of hire and every year, but we recommend continuous monitoring, whether it's Samba or Embark or whoever. And that's basically going to tell you, hey, Rob didn't pay his child support, don't have any, but if I didn't and my license got suspended, it's going to immediately let you know that you now have a disqualified driver. We're a little over time. I'm going to rush through the rest, and then if you have questions, you can hit us up at TruckSafe, and I know we can get you right. Now, PSP differs from those things because they're not regulated from a compliance standpoint. PSP is not required, but what it does give you is the big picture of this potential applicant, this potential driver, or your current driver. And when I left driving, I had a +5 driving record, but that's only because most of my items were not traffic citations, they were warnings. And despite having a perfect MVR, my PSP was 4 pages long. That was 14-hour shift violations, 70-hour violations, etc. Lights out, bald tires, etc.